Yeah, hi, yo. Um, so, does anybody know any connection between all these people, Ralph Merkle, Perry Metzger, Nick Szabo, and Hal Finney? Any guesses? Anybody want to yell out? Cryptography, yes. Anybody else knows? Security? Yeah, you could say that. Basically, the early Bitcoin people, the people whose work basically led to. But there is a prehistory to Bitcoin that led to Bitcoin, and that is very interesting. So these all people were obsessed with defeating death. So they were a part of this kind of a group online called Extropians, whose main mission was. Is there an echo happening in my voice? Do you hear an echo? Okay, I hear an echo. Anyways, so their whole mission was basically to defeat death, and by that, what they meant was always to like engineer systems, biological systems, otherwise, which does not decay and die, and that is very crucial to the whole Bitcoin thing, because as part of that, they were the first people who came upon what we have, the Alcor Foundation, the whole like life extension, longevity, and all those people. These were the same people. This is why Hal, who is dead, but long live Hal, because Hal is frozen. Which is very interesting in terms of crypto, because there's an idea in crypto that you can't kill crypto. Like no matter what regulators do, no matter the markets have a downturn, no matter somebody scams like SBF or whoever, it'll keep coming back. This is idea that predates crypto, that we need to build a system that no matter what anybody does, cannot be killed at all. And that is very interesting. Why can I not do the next? Okay. That is a very interesting backdrop. So the Extropians basically started asking this question from back in the day, from the 1940s actually, which is what is life? And the idea of extropianism comes from this text by Erwin Schrödinger, the quantum physicist, whose main idea was that in any system, especially closed system, the entropy of it constantly increases. So entropy can be thought of as something like the sense of disorderedness. So in plain speak, it would be like it is easier to say break something than to make something, because a system, if you leave it, like if you leave these chairs by itself, it'll eventually decay and destroy and like become shit. So not to have that, we have to constantly work at it. But the living organism, human beings, chimps, plants, whatever, we don't automatically decay and die instantly. We live through a couple of years and die. So the idea, Schrödinger's idea of life was the question of what is life. Because life is basically a force that is fighting against entropy, the natural tendency for things in the universe to like decay and die. And one of the early examples of that are automatons, clocks, because clocks are one of those, the first devices that we humans made that goes on forever, that you don't need to, like, it doesn't stop after like a few minutes. It goes on for years and days as long as the spring goes on. So this idea of automatons was crucial to the extropianism, because the idea was that what if we can have systems, computer systems, that go on forever where you cannot destroy it, like goes on like a clock. So with extropianism, what you get is when they wanted to talk about eternal life, like immortal life, where basically one of the ways to extend life would be in either augment the body with electronic things, or upload the consciousness, or eat healthy, or one of the many longevity things. But the problem they had is outside of the human body, is even if people lived forever, we need to have property that is also eternal. So for example, if I have euros or dollars in my pocket, and if I live for 2,000 years, I cannot use the same money, because all money and everything is based on the legitimacy of countries, of nation states. And nation states are not there forever. And so this is why one of the ideas that initially they pioneered in the Extropian forum, way before crypto and all that, was immutability, which is they needed a system where you could have a store of value which can never be undone, which can never be removed, which can never be tampered. So what that means is if I have 1 million euros in this new system that can never be undone, then I can, if I'm frozen, for example, like Hal, after 1,000 years, if I'm woken up, the money is still there. But in every other way, that was not possible, because you don't know what will happen in 1,000 years. So this is why immutability, in many ways, was a kind of a technical way of arguing for immortality without sounding, mystical or woo-woo. So this is why fiat money is definitely not immortal. So their argument was because the legitimacy of fiat money depends on nation states. So if nation states, so for example, we have money from 3,000 years ago, but that's not valid anymore because those states that validated that money are not there anymore. So this is why fiat money is not immortal. Similarly, centralization is never immortal because if you strike at the center of a centralized network, the network dies. So we need to have a system, they realized, which is not centralized. So anytime, like in the case of Bitcoin, if most nodes go down, as long as there is still enough nodes going on, technically even a single node going on with the highest difficulty, the network still goes on. So it is something that you can't kill crypto. So what you get as a result of that, the Extropian movement, and this is why crypto was a result of the Extropian movement, was death to nation states, because they are not immortal, death to fiat, they are not immortal, death to centralization, they are not immortal, death to intermediation, they are not immortal. So anything that is not immortal or that is getting in the way of having eternal property needs to go. And this is why the same people, as I said, like Szabo, Ralph Finney, all the pioneers of Bitcoin were all chatting in this Extropian forum, and this is where they were discussing how they could come up with this kind of a new kind of electronic money or something like that. And as a result, you got Bitcoin. This is why the same people, the smart contract and everything was pioneered in Extropian forum. And the cryptography forum also, the sub-forum, was initially started as a Extropian sub-forum. So, but how do you do that? How do you get this kind of a magical thing that never dies? So you could argue there's a tech behind it, but the rhetoric that was there in the Extropian forum was some kind of alchemy. So basically, if you could turn ones and zeros in digital gold, and this is why the rhetoric of digital gold is so strong in Bitcoin, because that's the idea. Even the idea that turning wasteful computation, proof of work, into something very useful, something that backs the security of the network. So immortality, in terms of machines and systems, became an idea that a machine, a system that can fight against its own death, which is the idea of autonomous systems, shutdown-proof systems, and this obsession with attack vectors. That was like, there was no community before Extropians that were so obsessed with making systems that would go on forever and ever and ever. And this is why if you've been in any crypto startup or product or anything, you see half the time we discuss about attack vectors. Like there should be nothing left possible that somebody could attack. Why? Because it needs to be immortal. So this is very elemental because even if you think in terms of Hal Finney's life, it's very, like the culmination of Bitcoin and Hal Finney's end of life is very similar because he died in the Alcor, he's frozen, provided that in like hundreds or thousands of years, the ALS syndrome, which he died of, the disease, they will find a cure. But if they find a cure, they will wake him up and then get the Bitcoins whose private keys he has in his mind, use it to fund the Alcor all the 1,000 years of keeping him alive. So what happens is this very idea of Bitcoin living forever is intrinsically connected, in this case to Hal Finney, but also other people's life forever, because before Bitcoin, they were really obsessed with the idea, and the Extropians, that how can we have something where, say my body is uploaded, my mind is uploaded in the computer, but what if somebody turns off the computer? What if there's a power cut and I die? I'm not alive to do anything. But they realize with this idea of Bitcoin, if I have certain things that people who need that money, like the servers or providers and all that, they need the money which I have, whose private keys only I have in my mind. So that would mean that you keep the system alive forever and ever and ever. So this was a very clever trick to achieve immortality of sorts, or at least have a way to do that. So this is why crypto, in many ways, you will see, forces us to have a kind of a death of concepts that were used to before. Because, so this is what I call fiat concepts. Like even the idea of death, which comes from like all throughout history, we have always thought death is normal. I mean, there's no way about it. But the Extropians were one of the people, like in modern times, the first people who took this so-called spiritual released idea of immortality and said, you know what, we can even challenge this idea that has been given to us for all of eternity, which is, of course you die. They're like, maybe that's not always have to be inevitable. So they forced this idea that we could have a kind of a death of all fiat concepts, like not just death, which is the beginning, but even the idea of identity. And this is why in crypto, you have weird sense of identity with anonymous identities and everything. And even with the idea of like some of the terms I put there, these are some ways which have in the last 10, 15 years, crypto has made us question. Like anybody who has encountered or worked with DAOs, they know the whole idea of what is a corporation, what is an institution, who is a person becomes completely trippy to the point that we are forced to have these fiat concepts, the concepts that came before crypto, institutions, persons, users, like we're forced to abandon these ideas. Like even the idea of user, in a regular tech application, a user is somebody who just the username password, they use the system, they don't have much say. But in crypto, in some platforms at least, you can use your coins to vote for it and decide for things, you can participate. So you're no longer just a user, which is also a term for addict. And same thing, for example, for like the whole question about crypto being like, is it a security or is it a commodity? Usually it's much more clear. But in crypto, it's really difficult to characterize, and we know the history where SEC is completely clueless. Every day they are trying to figure out, is it a security or is it a commodity? It is what it is, they don't know. And that's good reason, because that's the thing, that it is not so much a kind of a lack of intellectual understanding by SEC or regulators, whoever. It's just that these crypto brings us a reality which is so alien that we cannot use our old fiat concepts. And this is why the crypto's crypto, like crypto means literally hidden. What's hidden inside crypto is these fiat remnants, like things like these ideas of identity, users, like as if the identity and the actual human being has to be one-on-one mapping, which is not the case. You can have like, I mean, the very idea from the beginning that you must not use the same key twice, public key twice. Should keep creating. That means what? Like you will have multiple so-called identities, but they are not really identities because they are just like key signing pairs. So even the idea of identity, even the idea of user, the idea of institutions, everything is up for grabs now. And this is where it's a real problem in crypto. Like crypto is dead unless the fiat way of thinking in crypto, like thinking in terms of users and institutions and like all ways that we are used to thinking when we build technology, when we build applications, has to go. And this is why crypto forces us to radically invent in completely radically alien views of the world, which is like, would make no sense in a pre-crypto or other than crypto kind of world. And so this is why my hope is that we stop using pre-crypto concepts. Like, for example, we hear all the time people use like philosophies from like 600 years ago, like the idea of social contract, things like that. And they don't always exactly fit in crypto because it is really weird the way we come together, the way we do consensus and all that. And so this is why, this is the point against philosophical complacency. And this is why one of the key tasks in crypto that we need to bring it to the next stage, if we don't want it to die, is to do philosophy every single step of the way. We should not be complacent with the terms that we have gotten from like thousands of years, because just don't work. I mean, I know we do have so much work happening every day in tech innovation, in new economic innovation, even legal innovation, but rarely you see rigorous philosophy, like where people are like, you know what, the basic concepts that we are used to, like what is an institution, what is a state, and you know, Balaji talked about network state, up for grabs. We can't use those terms anymore as if they mean the same thing. And I don't know what those means, but that's the task of philosophy, to figure this shit out. And this is why, you know, this is the real question that I have, like who is doing this scary new philosophy, like as crypto, like philosophy as crypto, philosophy in crypto? Like, are we really inventing new concepts? Are we listening to crypto? When crypto is telling us clearly the ideas of like one easy example is the commodity versus like security, what is ETH and what is all these things. Like, are we coming up with a third category, fourth category? I don't know, like completely new ideas. Like even like, if you think of like MEV, it's forcing us to think of what it means to have an exploit, what it means to have a hack, what it means to have, you know, like all these things are up for grabs, which we cannot use anymore. And this is why we need to eliminate all hidden fiat assumptions in crypto when we build applications. And so to kind of recapping what we talked about, resurrecting, and that crypto is, sorry, what happened here? Don't know. How do I? Okay, I'll scroll through. Sorry. Okay, yeah. So to recap, crypto is dead. By that I mean like there's a sense of like resurrection fundamental to crypto, because that was the beginning of the Extropian forum. That can we have systems which can be resistant to its own death, not by not dying, but like being able to resurrect. This is why in crypto, even if nodes go down, as long as some nodes are up, it'll come up. So this obsession that crypto is dead, which means long-live crypto, which means that we need to let all the fiat things die in crypto, which is long-live and prosper. Now I will actually read a love letter, so it'll be super cringe, okay? The DAO of Ethereum is not the eternal DAO. But if you struggle against the DAO of Ethereum, you will struggle against yourself. But if you are dancing, then you could gracefully move around foes worth fighting. The DAO of Ethereum is a wonderful wonderland for abstractions. But no abstraction can escape the DAO, no matter how useful, emphasized, or ubiquitous. But any abstraction in the DAO can become much less useful, emphasized, and ubiquitous. The DAO of Ethereum is more like the DAO of a cyberpunk metropolis in cyberspace. The DAO of Ethereum is less like the DAO of a simple or an ideal tech object. The DAO of Ethereum was born out of the DAO of Bitcoin, was born out of the DAO of blockchain, not Bitcoin, was born out of the DAO of cryptography and distributed systems, of the DAO of economics, was born of the DAO of law, of morality, of struggle. Hold on, I'm trying. Okay. The DAO of Ethereum is the DAO of cypherpunks conducting experiments with urgency and high stakes. Is the DAO of cyberpunks operating outside the conceptual, perceptual grasp of their adversaries and peers. The DAO of Ethereum is the DAO of punks holding on to faith that eventually their struggle will not be in vain. The DAO of Ethereum, that we all are going to make it, The DAO of Ethereum is the DAO of punks reimagining the foundations of law, of economics, of governance at least. The DAO of Ethereum is the DAO of punks being taken advantage of by organized crime, multinational corporations, SBF, and government agencies, regulators. The DAO of Ethereum is the DAO of punks creating vacuums for other punks to fill. Indeed, Bitcoin was born of a vacuum created by the global financial system. It's a story of resurrection because everything was going to die, and that was the Genesis block happened, 2008 crisis. And then out of the death, long live Bitcoin. Indeed, Ethereum was born of a vacuum created by Bitcoin, that you could not run smart contracts. Ethereum 2 was born out of a vacuum created by Ethereum. Ethereum 3, as an exercise, out of the vacuum created by Ethereum 2. And the 3 is more like a philosophy. It's not really a... Such is the DAO of Ethereum. So there is this idea. The other day, I was sitting there, Manu was asking me, and I like this idea. He was asking me, what is a love punk? And I like the idea because we're talking about punks here. Because punk is somebody in English language who goes against the grain, like who challenges conventions or things like that. And that's what we need to do. But how we do the punk, like cypherpunk means somebody uses like cyber stuff or to do the punk thing. The medium of the punk is the word that you had before. So love punk with somebody who does the revolutionary act of challenging convention through acts of love. And that's what we need to do. And that is philosophy 101. To like, if you really listen to crypto, if you really love crypto, you would have to like in everyday design exercises in crypto applications, we cannot just be okay doing like, okay, we do crypto economics, we do all this stuff, which is nice, but we have to be multidisciplinary. Truly multidisciplinary. And by truly multidisciplinary means that not like having, this is another myth that you have in crypto, which is like, I am not technical enough. You hear that all the time in conferences and stuff, like when people say, oh, I want to challenge how things are done, but the technical people, this is a myth. You know why? Because like I have had lawyers tell me a lot, like I'm not technical, Anuj, how can I intervene in crypto? I'm like, but do you think law has no techniques? Like STEM people have taken over the field so badly that they have convinced everybody that you guys have no other field as any techniques, as if they're just like winging it every day, which is not true. Like to do rigorous philosophy, you have to like study deep and not just study a Wikipedia entry of social contract while you're on the shitter and next day you tweet about it because you just learned about this social sciences idea. You have to really do the rigorous work of doing that. And that's what I love punk is. That's what I'm suggesting. Like, we have to do proper philosophy, and we should not be bogged down by things like, I'm not technical enough. Those things have to die. The shitty dichotomies of that is a fiat world. Only some people get to say what should be the way to design a protocol. No, we should all come together and do philosophy together. So that's the short gist of it. But if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to. Just one thing I will add, there are some fake multidisciplinarity happens in crypto all the time, where basically you will have teams where, they will have, you have seen those diagrams where it's like crypto economics at the middle, and then there is law, government, this, that, and the other. So what happens is ultimately is the economics and the crypto, the STEM people at the center who are deciding how to have all the disciplines come together, which is just fake multidisciplinarity. Because that's the thing that you cannot give disciplinary privilege of only people who studied the hard sciences and not people who study social sciences. And that is really a tragedy in crypto. So I hope we change that kind of stuff. So I think my time is over.